Welcome to my podcast. I'm Manjit Kaur Rupra and I'm a narcissistic abuse recovery therapist. This podcast series is about telling the stories of victims of narcissistic abuse who have sent me their stories to share anonymously to make their voices heard. If you have a story to share, contact me via my website. Link is below. This is a story about a woman who contacted me to share her story. Her name has been changed to protect her identity, and whoever else I may mention, I'm going to call her Amy and her partner Ben. Trigger warning, this story mentions feeding fetishes. If this is triggering for you, you might want to skip this episode. Amy and Ben met on a dating site. They were both at university. Amy thought Ben looked very handsome in his profile picture and wanted to get to know him. They clicked straight away and got on so well through messages. They decided to exchange numbers, so they were away from the dating site and the communication felt a bit more personal. They got on really well and spent hours and hours chatting on the phone to one another each day. Amy was shocked how quickly she connected with Ben, as she had not felt this way before. She had spent months on the dating site and had spoken to many men, and things hadn't gone anywhere. They were either boring or too much for her. The first time she spoke to Ben on the phone, she was drawn in by his sexy voice. There were some men she had spoken to that she just hadn't connected with. Ben told Amy he is looking forward to getting to know her and that she sounds very nice on the phone. After weeks of chatting, Amy and Ben decided to meet. It was a next step to see where things could lead. There was only so much they could keep on talking about over the phone. They needed to meet to see if they connected in real life and whether there was a real physical connection. Amy travelled to Ben's city to see him. They met in a neutral location and went for a meal and a few drinks. Sometimes it can be hard to tell if you get along in person as well as you get on over the phone, but Amy and Ben felt no different. As they immersed in conversation, Amy's mind wandered and she felt that she didn't want to pursue this any further at this time. Although he was really handsome and tall, and they got on so well, she felt he was quite slim built. She wanted someone with a slightly more muscular body, as that was her preference. Amy had a lovely curvy figure and she wanted someone with a bigger build. He was good looking and they got on so well, but she couldn't see herself with him. Amy felt that he needed a bit more meat on him. After spending the whole day together, Amy said she wanted to just be friends. Ben looked disappointed, but seemed to accept Amy's decision. They kept in touch as friends for a bit, but then things soon fizzled out. Amy had graduated by then and had a fantastic career as a solicitor. She was getting on with things and had no luck on the dating scene. She had a couple of short-term relationships, but nothing serious. After many years, Amy and Ben reconnected, as Amy sent Ben a message accidentally. It was one of those moments when the message should have gone to someone else, but it had gone to the person that you didn't want it to. The message was nothing exciting, but just asking her friend how she was and whether she wanted to meet. Amy felt silly. After so many years of losing touch, she didn't want him to think that she was still thinking about him. Even though they had only gone on one date, she didn't want Ben to think she was thinking about him because she wasn't. She sat there for a moment, hoping she could have recalled the message, but there was no such thing. Once the message had gone, it was actually gone. It wasn't like today's phones where you can delete or unsend a message. There would only be one of many scenarios Amy could think of. Either Ben would have read the message and deleted it, his number could have changed, and never reached him, or he would reply back, either asking who it is, or he would welcome her back into his life. Several days passed, and Amy thought nothing more of it. She breathed a sigh of relief. Ben had either not received a message or had ignored it, but she was happy. A week later, Amy had just finished work and she heard a message chime on her phone. She took a glance at it and had to take a second look. To her surprise, it was Ben. He apologized for not getting in touch sooner and said that he had been really busy with work. Amy couldn't help but smile. They had got on so well, and she often wondered if they had given things a go, could it have worked out? She replied back quickly, but not too quickly, keeping her excitement under control. She tried to imagine how he looked now many years later. Perhaps he had become stockier and more muscly. He had always been very handsome, and they had got on like a house on fire, and at times she regretted her decision for not wanting to pursue things. Amy and Ben quickly started chatting like old times, catching up on the lost years and what they had been up to. Ben now worked as an IT specialist for a top firm. Now that WhatsApp was hitting the technology scene, Amy was able to view his profile picture. He was even more handsome than she remembered as he posed in a black suit, a beard, and a razor-sharp jawline. He looked like his shoulders were broader, but she couldn't tell in the picture as only the top half of his body was showing. Several weeks passed, and they carried on talking like time had stood still. It was like they had never lost touch. Ben suggested they meet one weekend as he was invited to a wedding in Amy's hometown. He said he would be there anyway, so it would be nice to see her and to catch up. Amy was excited to see Ben. She was curious to see if that connection was still there. They arranged to meet in a bar after he had been to the wedding. Amy got dressed up and put on her favourite skinny jeans and a black blouse. She sprayed her favourite perfume and left the house. As Ben approached her in the bar, she was amazed at how handsome he looked. She had looked at his WhatsApp, but in real life, he looked even better. She had always thought he was good looking since the first day she met him. She didn't realise how time had made him look even more attractive, and plus he was now so muscly and broad, just like how she wanted. That cute smile was a killer. They gave each other a hug and spent time catching up. Amy didn't see a wedding ring on Ben, so she assumed he had not settled down. She waited for him to say something about relationships. Ben told Amy he had just come out of a long-term relationship after his ex had cheated on him. He said he'd been single for about a year now. He told her he had always thought about Amy and was disappointed when she had just wanted to be friends with him. Amy told Ben she was single, but had had a few dates, but they didn't lead anywhere. Ben had to leave after an hour as he had to go and pick his friends up from the wedding reception and drive back home. Amy was pleased he had taken some time out to meet her. She had a great time reconnecting with Ben and catching up. She couldn't help but smile and wondered if he would want to meet again. Amy and Ben began to talk again after meeting, and it was like no time had passed. As the months went on, Amy and Ben started to date. They travelled back and forth to one another's city and enjoyed getting to know one another. Amy fell for him hard and fast. They quickly expressed how much they liked one another. The more time Amy spent with him, the more she was beginning to fall for him. Amy and Ben went away together one weekend. As they lay in bed, Ben said that he likes large, curvy women and wishes that Amy was even curvier. Amy felt conscious of her weight and wanted to tone up and maybe even lose some weight. Ben went on to say that he has a fetish for feeding women and often watch videos of larger women being fed. Amy paused and didn't know how to react. No one had ever said this to her before. Amy felt the conversation was becoming weird for her. He went on to say that he wanted to feed her so she becomes curvier and that this was a big turn on for him. Amy looked startled. She wanted to lose weight and not put it on, she thought. She had heard of people having a fetish for feeding people, but no one had expressed that they wanted to feed her. As she lay there shocked and confused for a few minutes, she finally found some words to explain that she doesn't want to become bigger and curvier. She wanted to lose some weight, tone up, and to be healthy. Ben went quiet and said that he understands and likes her just as she is. He didn't pursue this conversation any further. Amy put Ben's desires in the background and forgot about it, and the relationship continued to blossom. After several months of seeing each other and spending lots of time together, Amy said she wants a long-term relationship and a commitment. Ben said that he likes her and wanted to get to know her more before committing to something long-term. This made Amy feel unsettled, as they had been dating for months. She had thought in her head that he is not serious about her. Things began to change after this. All Amy had asked was for a commitment. They would arrange to meet, and often Ben wouldn't turn up. He would make up excuses that he had a family emergency to deal with or that he was needed at work late. He made excuse after excuse. Amy knew that he was lying, and the once devoted and committed Ben had gone distant. Amy was intuitive and knew that something wasn't right. She just had to hear it from him or have the evidence to back up her doubts. His lack of communication and not meeting her as often like how they did before went on for the next few months. He would meet up and things were back to normal, and then he would be as distant as ever when they departed. It was like she was reliving that trauma time and time again. One minute she was on top of the world with him when they would meet, and then she was lonely and depressed when they were apart. It started to play on her mind that perhaps he had gone off her, or because she didn't want to gain weight, he didn't want to know. Amy felt restless and felt that something was not right. She felt paranoid that she was not good enough for him. The lies continued as time went on, and Amy felt trapped in her own emotions. The worst part was that he even lied about being abroad when he wasn't. Things were not adding up, and Amy started to feel like he was covering up something very big. A part of Amy felt that he had another woman in his life, maybe a double life somewhere, or even worse, he was married, and he didn't think that things would become so serious between them. Perhaps he had become scared, since Amy said she was serious about him. His behaviour and lack of communication led to severe anxiety. She couldn't believe she had fallen for a man who was disloyal, lied constantly, and never knew where she stood with him. Amy wished he would rather be honest with her so that she could move on and heal from this nightmare. After months and months of feeling trapped in this relationship, Amy phoned Ben one afternoon and asked him to tell her the truth. He was quiet for some time, trying to catch his words. Eventually he said he has something to tell her. After a long silence, he nervously said that he is married. Can you believe that? Amy was shocked and hurt and couldn't get any words out of her mouth. There was silence. Amy was devastated, absolutely devastated. She knew there was something wrong as Ben had started to become distant, but although the thought went through her mind, she never thought he would actually say he is married. She felt stupid and ashamed. After all these years they had reconnected, and he didn't have the courtesy to tell her he is married, she thought. She was disgusted with Ben and at his level of deceit. How could she have fallen for someone that was already married? Amy felt sick to her stomach that for the last 12 months she was dating someone that was married. He had told her he wanted to settle down with her and wanted them to have their own house. She even accepted he had a fetish for making her curvier and was a feeder. All these thoughts raced through her mind. She was silent for a long while, not knowing what to say to Ben. Amy finally found her words as the rage inside her kicked in, bringing her to reality. She had wasted 12 months of her time. She should never have met him, she thought. The first thing Amy asked, "How could you do this to me?" Ben replied in a soft voice that this doesn't change anything and that they can still be together. As she heard him say this, she realised he was sick and twisted. Amy didn't want to be the woman on the side, someone he met every now and again and had a fun time with. This wasn't a relationship. "Are you out of your mind?" she blurted out. Amy asked Ben how long he had been married, and he replied very quietly, 5 years. Amy put the phone down after telling him it is over. She didn't need to hear anymore. She wasn't interested in hearing him play a victim. He knew exactly what he had done, and he had strung her along knowing full well that she was looking for someone genuine and serious. Amy didn't hear from Ben for a few days, and then he texted her to say he promises to get a divorce because she was the one he wanted to be with and not his wife. He texted her a few more times and tried to call her, but Amy didn't reply. She thought to herself, if only his wife knew what he was like. She felt bad for her. Amy was becoming irritated with Ben's pleas, and she wasn't interested in his apology and promises. She knew that even if they were together, she could never trust him again. She texted him one last time and told him never to contact her again. Amy didn't hear from him again for a while, but months later he started messaging her again, saying how much he misses her, that he loves her, and that he has applied for a divorce. She asked him for the proof of this, and he never sent her any paperwork. He pleaded with her to give another chance, but he could never show her the proof of whether he had applied for a divorce. These messages kept on going back and forth, and Ben avoided all requests asking for divorce papers. Amy needed Ben gone, so she blocked him, so didn't have to hear from him. But then he found another way to reach out to her on social media. He messaged her on social media, but she blocked him and locked her social media profiles down. He was trying really hard to get her back. After blocking him everywhere, she thought she would never hear from Ben ever again. But one morning, she saw a message from an unrecognised number. To her horror, it was Ben contacting her from another number, saying that he just wants to meet and sort things out. Amy was not interested in sorting things out, as there was nothing to say. She quickly blocked the number and decided to change her phone number. It was the only way Ben would never be able to reach her ever again. It has now been a few years, and she hasn't heard from Ben again. He has no way to reach out to her. She is unsure if he ever divorced, but she didn't want him anyway. Although Amy had a horrible experience with someone she thought she could trust, she moved forward with her life. She was able to heal and put the past behind her. It took her some time to get over what Ben had done, but she has now found her soulmate and is happily married. She had to kiss many frogs to get there. Thank you for trusting me to share your story, Amy. I wish you all the happiness in the world. Please like and share. If you have a story you would like me to tell anonymously about you, email me via my website. Thank you for tuning into this episode.